So for our final topic for today, you have to return to the trans issue, I'm afraid. And specifically about Rosie Duffield. So obviously, Rosie Duffield, Labour MP, has become famous as a champion of sex-based women's rights. She's constantly sticking her neck out for having gender-critical opinions. And somewhat bizarrely, she's now been accused of anti-Semitism for liking a sort of jokey, gender-critical tweet by Graham Linehan, who was criticising Eddie Izzard for essentially saying that if he was alive during the Holocaust, he would have been killed by the Nazis.
We should say Linehan's joke because it was actually quite funny, which is, of course, the Nazis had a big problem with white men with blonde hair.
White straight men with blonde hair.
Yeah. But apparently, liking this makes her anti-Semitic. This has been going on for quite some time. It's only just reached the news, I think. But the fact that it was instigated by one Ash Sarkar, I think tells you everything about how shamelessly political all of this is. Not least because of the fact that Rosie Duffield was one of those Labour MPs who was very vocal and concerned about the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party under Corbyn issue. So the idea that she's some Holocaust revisionist, which is what the charge that Ash Sarkar essentially levelled at her door, or was endorsing Holocaust revisionism at all, it's so shameless. It's almost difficult to understand why it's being taken seriously at all. But unfortunately, this is just the situation. I think if Labour's got any sense, they should, the leadership that is, they should take this as an opportunity to almost quite ostentatiously stand by Rosie Duffield. But given what's happened during this witch hunt every step of the way to this point, there's no prospect of that, it doesn't seem like. I'm not saying they'll get rid of her, but they'll continue to let people just beat up on her until she's left the party.
No, it's just trying to grind her down. I mean, Rosie just can't catch a break at the moment. There is, I think that as much as the sort of momentum side of Labour, when it was influential, had this kind of, and people still hold on to the idea that the whole kind of anti-Corbyn thing and discussion about anti-Semitism was a witch hunt, and you were just so obsessed with him and blah blah blah, and they can't see that seems to be exactly what's happening with Rosie Duffield. Apart from the fact that Rosie Duffield has never said anything that's anti-trans, never said anything to my knowledge that's anti-Semitic, in fact, and has been through this, as we've written on Spiked, has been through this before in relation to sort of threats of disciplinary action, and she's herself has admitted that she's got an incredibly hostile relationship with the Labour leadership. That they have refused, a lot of them have refused to speak to or apologise to her for what she's gone through, and it isn't a good look for allegedly a government in waiting, as they like to call themselves, for a party that a lot of people are thinking might win a next election when it comes, that there has been a continuous and concerted effort to hound out a vocal woman from their party. And I don't often do the kind of feminist line, but Christ, a woman who's talking about serious issues relating to women's freedom and is being pulled up for disciplinary action for the crime of liking something on Twitter. Even the sort of absurdity of the idea of liking, never mind that it was Graham Linehan, of simply liking a tweet, is just ludicrous. Surely they're meant to be a party that's more serious than this.
No, absolutely. If we could just pivot slightly away, something even less serious, and instead talk about Doctor Who briefly. The latest special aired over the weekend, and we were treated to the Doctor being lectured on the perils of misgendering a alien. So there's this sort of big fluffy alien. I believe his name is Meep the Beep or Beep the Meep, some combination of those words. And the Doctor foolishly assumed that this alien was a man, referred to it as he, and a trans character who is also played by a trans woman actress, delivered a delightful lecture to the Doctor about why we should never misgender people or aliens, and that we should always ask for their pronouns. The Doctor humbly accepted and said, "Yes, I'm so sorry. What are your pronouns?"
I'm cringing just listening to you.
Yeah, it was incredibly ham-fisted and difficult to watch.
It's like I made it up. Like if you had to kind of try to make up, this show has gone woke, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you would.
But why are they doing this? Like, what is this all about? Why is it this constant sort of need?
It's Russell T Davies. I mean, he's got an axe to grind, and it's his show at this point, and he's writing it. Fair enough. I mean, I don't watch Doctor Who on principle because I'm not
a child,
a nerd. But any viewers that are fans. But there's, I think it's telling that it always has to. You just leave it alone?
Yeah.
Can't you just let it be what it is. Why does it have to have this messaging? Actually, Malcolm Clark wrote a really interesting article on Spiked about this, where he went into the fact that if you are a Doctor Who fan and you are interested in sci-fi, which I'm interested in, there's quite an illustrious history of on TV and in books and fiction of this being a serious genre, and that actually a long history of social commentary. Think about Brave New World or anything like that. And there is the fact that it's come from those sort of heights of quite interrogating kind of the politics of the time, and actually a lot of the time quite serious left-wing ideology in sci-fi, to now an alien being offended or someone being offended on an alien's behalf because they have been called he or she. You just think, oh dear me, the authors of the past must be turning in their grave, at the idea of this, because it's such a descent into madness.
It seems to burnish this claim that remember Andrew Doyle said this to me ages ago. It was like, the thing about the work is they can't make art or culture. I was like, well, of course they do. They make it all the time. It's like, you can't move for messages. He's like, no, but I mean, it kills all creativity, because everything has to be put in second place to the message, to the lecture, to the propaganda, what have you. And it's a perfect example of that. It's like, it's creative death, this stuff, not least because this is a movement that is so preoccupied with the messages in culture and whether or not they're standing on the right side of history, or whether in 10 years hence someone will find this episode on BBC iPlayer and decide that one particular scene was actually unpleasant for XYZ reason and demand that it be pulled down. So yes, if nothing else, proof that wokeness is creative death. This episode seems like a good example of it.